That bright green paste sitting next to your sushi. The one that makes your nose burn and your eyes water. Here's the truth, it's probably not wasabi. In fact, there's a 95% chance you've never tasted the real thing. For decades, what most of the world calls wasabi has been a carefully crafted imitation, a mix of horseradish, mustard, and food coloring, designed to fool your taste buds. But why? Why would one of Japan's most famous condiments be faked on such a massive scale? The answer lies in a plant so rare, so difficult to grow, that it's been called the hardest crop in the world. Real wasabi doesn't just add spice, it represents centuries of tradition, craftsmanship, and respect for nature. And once you understand how it's made, you'll realize why it disappeared from your plate, and why true wasabi is one of the most misunderstood ingredients on earth. Because behind that simple green paste is a story of deception, obsession, and a flavor so fleeting it's almost impossible to capture. This is the real story of wasabi, and it's not what you think. To understand wasabi, you first have to meet the real thing. Wasabia japonica. A delicate, leafy green plant, native to Japan's cool, misty mountains. It belongs to the same botanical family as mustard, cabbage, and horseradish, yet it's unlike any of them. At the center of the plant lies its prized possession, a thick knobby stem called a rhizome. This is where true wasabi begins. For centuries, Japanese farmers have cultivated wasabi in the shaded valleys of regions like Shizuoka and Nagano, where icy spring water flows constantly over pebbled riverbeds. These environments are almost sacred, the perfect balance of shade, temperature, and mineral-rich water. The Japanese even have a word for these carefully designed farms, wasabida, meaning wasabi field. But here's where things start to get complicated. As sushi spread beyond Japan and became a global phenomenon, so did wasabi, or rather, what people thought was wasabi. The world fell in love with that signature green kick, yet almost no one was tasting the real plant. Over time, imitation replaced authenticity so completely that even professional chefs outside Japan couldn't tell the difference anymore. Wasabi's greatest problem wasn't its flavor, it was its identity. In chasing convenience, the world traded away one of Japan's most refined culinary treasures for a cheap imitation. Real wasabi quietly retreated to its mountain streams, while the fake version conquered the global sushi scene. And most of us never even noticed. But what makes the real thing so different, and why does it matter? To understand that, we have to look closer at what happens when you taste true wasabi for the first time. When you finally experience real wasabi, it's almost shocking how different it is from the imitation. The first thing you notice isn't the burn, it's the asterisk balance. The rhizome, when freshly grated, releases a pale green paste that's smooth, delicate, and alive with aroma. The flavor rushes through your nose like a clean flash of heat, sharp but not painful, refreshing rather than overwhelming. It doesn't cling to your tongue or make you reach for water. It strikes fast, then disappears, leaving behind a crisp, almost sweet aftertaste that cleanses your palate for the next bite. That unique burst of sensation isn't just magic, it's chemistry. When the rhizome is grated, enzymes in the plant react with compounds called asterisk glucose. The result? Molecules known as isothiocyanates, the same natural chemicals that create wasabi's signature nose-tingling heat. But unlike the capsaicin in chili peppers, which binds to pain receptors on your tongue, wasabi's compounds are volatile. They evaporate almost instantly. That's why its burn is short-lived but powerful, hitting your sinuses like a wave and vanishing within seconds. The experience of real wasabi feels more like an event than a flavor. It doesn't just add spice, it enhances the food around it. Pair it with fresh fish, and you'll notice something incredible. The wasabi sharpens the umami, heightens sweetness, and strips away any trace of fishiness. It was never meant to overpower sushi, but to complete it, balancing the raw delicacy of fish with a spark of energy that fades just as quickly as it arrives. It's this fleeting, almost ephemeral nature that gives real wasabi its charm and its curse. Because once it's grated, the flavor begins to die within minutes. And that's where its biggest challenge begins. So why don't we taste the real thing more often? The simple answer: because growing real wasabi is a nightmare. It's one of the most difficult plants on earth to cultivate, so delicate that farmers call it the green diva of agriculture. Wasabi refuses to grow under normal conditions. It demands a very specific environment: cool temperatures, constant flowing spring water, gentle shade, and clean mountain air. Too much sunlight, the plant wilts. Water too warm or stagnant, it dies. A slight shift in temperature or humidity can destroy an entire crop overnight. It's no wonder that true wasabi thrives only in a handful of isolated valleys across Japan, where farmers have spent generations perfecting the art of keeping this fragile plant alive. Traditional wasabi farms, or wasabi-da, are often carved directly into mountain slopes or riverbeds. The water must move continuously, never pooling, never stopping, keeping the roots cool and oxygenated. These farms look more like terraced gardens than agricultural fields, with streams running over carefully arranged stones that mimic a natural mountain flow. It's farming that feels more like gardening, more like meditation than mass production. Even under perfect conditions, it takes up to 2 years for a single wasabi rhizome to mature. Farmers must check them constantly, adjusting shade levels and water flow to avoid disease or rot. And after all that work, only a fraction of the harvest is good enough for market. That's why authentic wasabi can cost upwards of $200 per kilogram. When you compare that to a $5 tub of horseradish paste, it's easy to see why restaurants all over the world turn to a cheaper alternative. Real wasabi became a luxury for elite sushi bars, while the imitation became the standard everywhere else. It wasn't a conspiracy, it was economics. But this global swap would change how millions of people thought wasabi tasted, without most of them ever realizing it. Because when something this rare meets a market that demands cheap and fast, authenticity doesn't stand a chance. Here's the shocking truth. The green paste served in nearly every sushi restaurant outside Japan isn't wasabi at all. It's a clever imitation made from ground horseradish, mustard powder, cornstarch, and green food coloring. In other words, a decoy that looks the part but misses the soul. The imitation started as a practical solution. As sushi became popular around the world, chefs needed something cheap, shelf-stable, and easy to serve. Real wasabi couldn't handle travel or storage, it spoiled too quickly. So the industry created a substitute that mimicked its color and its burn. Horseradish, a close cousin of wasabi, contains similar spicy compounds, so it worked at least on the surface. Most people couldn't tell the difference, and soon, fake wasabi became the global norm. But while horseradish delivers the same nose-tingling kick, it doesn't have wasabi's clean vegetal freshness. Instead of a quick, refreshing sting that fades, fake wasabi hits hard and lingers with a harsher, mustard-like heat. It's louder, less elegant, and more aggressive, a rough copy of a refined original. But for those lucky enough to taste a genuine article again, the difference was so striking, it felt like discovering an entirely new flavor. Because once you've had real wasabi, there's no mistaking it for anything else. Imagine sitting at a high-end sushi counter in Tokyo. The chef pulls out a knobby green stem, rubs it gently against a fine sharkskin grater, and in seconds, a pale green paste begins to form. He places a small dab on a piece of fresh tuna and slides it across the counter. You take a bite and instantly realize this is nothing like the wasabi you've known. Fake wasabi, by comparison, feels blunt and one-dimensional. It hits hard, burns long, and overshadows everything else on the plate. Real wasabi is the opposite: gentle, balanced, fleeting. It's a flavor that demands your attention not because it's loud, but because it's pure. Real wasabi isn't just rare, it's fleeting. The moment a fresh rhizome touches the grater, a countdown begins. Within 15 minutes, its magic starts to fade. By the half-hour mark, most of the fiery aroma and delicate flavor have vanished completely, leaving behind only a dull trace of what once was. And yet, this fragility also sealed wasabi's fate in the modern world. In an age built on convenience, fast service, and long shelf lives, something that loses its flavor in minutes simply couldn't survive. The world moved on to imitations that could last for months, but in doing so, it lost the fleeting brilliance that made the real thing unforgettable. But even with all this progress, real wasabi remains more legend than staple. For most people, it's still out of reach, a rare experience reserved for special occasions or elite dining rooms. Some experts argue that true wasabi grown outside Japan can never taste exactly the same. because it lacks the mineral-rich water and centuries of cultivation knowledge behind the original Japanese farms. Others say modern science is closing the gap, proving that authenticity can evolve beyond geography. Either way, the pursuit itself has become part of wasabi's mystique, a global symbol of craftsmanship, patience, and purity. And yet, beneath the excitement, lies a deeper question. If the world was fooled by fake wasabi for so long, what other truths about our food have we accepted without ever questioning? So the next time you sit down for sushi, ask yourself, is what's on your plate a reflection of tradition, or just a green illusion? And if you ever get the chance to taste the real thing even once, don't rush it. Let it remind you what authenticity feels like. Because in the end, real wasabi isn't just rare. It's a small, powerful reminder that some truths, like its sharp, fleeting fire, only exist for those who seek them out.